Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the Corales Puntacana Championship, where I will give you my picks, projections, pivots, fades, and oh yes, the winner. I put a show out yesterday doing a little more deeper dive into the course and the areas that we're looking for from a golfer perspective. But just to give you some quick background, this is was always an alternate event. It is a full-fledged FedEx Cup event now due to the Ryder Cup being canceled. And so full FedEx Cup points are being given, and the purses actually went up $1 million. So kind of shocked that we're not getting a little better field. It's an amazing vacation destination. And so I can't think of a better place but the Dominican Republic to recharge your batteries. But anyways, this course is a par 72. It's playing over 7,600 yards, Paulson greens, which, just for your knowledge, there's two courses, and we're going to talk about them. This Corales and Cocoa Beach, where they play the Puerto Rico Open, both have Paulson greens. And these greens are, it's kind of they're newer on tour as as an actual creating of a hybrid, but they're used in very heavy saltwater conditions. They do very well in that, or they can respond better than the other types of grass. And it's somewhat like a Bermuda. They can cut them really tight and get the step meter up to 12, 13. So typically people always think of Paulson greens as maybe a little slower, but they can get them moving pretty good. Past champions here: Graham McDowell last year. Previously was Bryce Garnett. Also in the field is Dominic Bozelli, who won when it was a web.com / Corn Ferry Tour. So they played here for a few years before it did change to a PGA Tour. I'm trying to think if there was anyone else a note. Oh, and then Mackenzie Hughes was a T2 last year. And so what you'll glean from that is you don't have to be the longest hitter, but accurate hitters seem to do well here. Really good putters, and so that's who we are going to focus on going through the analysis. But we'll see what cooks out. So let's jump into this. So I ran some different models. So first thing, the two comp courses, well, the main course, Corales, and then the comp course, which is Cocoa Beach, as I mentioned, where they play the Puerto Rico Open. They don't take the lasers there. There is no shot link data, but there is still data that we can glean that makes people successful at this course. And so this first model I ran, looking at past 36 rounds, which you'll see some of these guys only have maybe 4 rounds, 8 rounds. Some have more tenure there. But you can kind of just see real quickly, some of the names that pop up with the data that we do have. And I highlighted those. Seb Straka, we'll talk a little more about. Aaron Baddeley, Matt Jones. Emiliano Grillo comes up quite a bit. Of course, Bryce Garnett, as I discussed, is a past winner here. But this is just my first kind of look. And then what I want to do is dive a little deeper, and so to get a little more data and actually get some shot link data and use the actual categories that we wanted to focus on for this tournament. I opened it up and said, okay, let's just look at par 72s over 7,400 yards. And I also put the filter on is easy to hit the fairway and easy to score. So that's what this model is looking at. And then the areas that were popping up from past winners, and again, this is looking at the top 10 past winners for the last couple of years. Sand saves was important, fairways gained. Trying to think if there was big ones. Proximity to the hole from 4 to 450 and 450 to 500. I threw driving distance in there because I do think if you can hit it a little further, I think it's always an advantage. Wolf and Bryson just showed us that. Putting, I think, is a very key stat. And then I also wanted to look at, this is going to be a bit of a birdie fest. There is a couple par 5s that are very gettable for eagles. So just wanted to pull out some names and see what came out, what the model spit out, and I highlighted Matt Jones because he pops up in a few. But Emiliano Grillo again, the putter, as you see, he was ranked 37th in putting out of this field, but he does in all the other areas. So just there's some names for you to kind of just take in from looking at that way. And then I just wanted to pull off the filters, still looking at the same distances, just to look at recent form. Again, this is over the last 36 rounds and who was kind of showing up, again, with those same key categories. Again, Seb Straka, Adam Long, Sam Burns pops up a few times, Mackenzie Hughes. Chase Seifert was an interesting one, and what I thought was interesting, if you look across his stats, you know, he doesn't do anything number one, but he also has no reds, and so anything that would be in red we would not want. And so you see some of these guys, and again, this field, as we already discussed, is, you know, definitely not the who's who. This is a tournament that I call it the anybody can win. Literally, you could be 6,000 or you could be 10,000. And you could say, well, that could be typical for a lot of golf tournaments, but I don't believe in that. The WGCs, the majors, when you have a stronger field, you know, these guys who typically are in the $6,000 range, a lot of these guys, you know, would never have a chance. But in this tournament, just like the Safeway with Stuart Sink winning, and, you know, with Jim Herman and Michael Thomas, when you get those events that, you know, maybe have a few big names, you know, you're going to see these guys out of nowhere win an event that have either never won or haven't won in 10, 20 years. So what we're looking for is, you know, again, the golfers I think for this is going to be the best putters. Length, again, you know, was not resonating. And also guys that hit the fairways. Funny enough, even though these are easy to hit fairways, it seemed important from all the past things that I could locate, you know, to do that. And again, if you look at Bozelli, if you look at Bryce Garnett, Graham McDowell, even Mackenzie Hughes, all those guys do not hit the ball long. They are pretty accurate, but they are great putters. And so that's what we're going to kind of focus on. So let's look at that. So the best putters over the past 36 months, who pops up? So as I just mentioned, Mackenzie Hughes, number one. Christopher Ventura, I think he's an interesting play. Sam Burns, again, pops. Seb Straka, Matt Jones, again, Chase Seifert. And we'll even dive deeper. And, of course, Dominic Bozelli pops up there. Yeah, so all these guys, to some degree, I'm going to discuss. And the last one, what I wanted to see was, okay, what if we could get the best drivers with the best putting? Who would that be? And funny enough, Seb Straka pops as number one, Sam Burns again, and the guys I just mentioned, Ventura, Seifert, Hughes, and Adam Long, just to take a look at that. So from that, let's just take a real quick, this is being recorded Tuesday around 4:30 Eastern. So I did pull the projections with all these just so we could see who already is going to be the chalky, and where we can pivot and make some differentiators to build an optimal lineup so we can win the big money. And there is a $200,000 top prize, so that's again what we're focusing on. So the first guy that came up super chalky is Will Gordon, and there's good reason. And I want to reiterate, and I say this every time, I'm not saying not to play any of these guys. I want you just to understand that they're already pretty heavily owned or going to be owned. And if there is a good reason to play them, then we'll eat the chalk. But if there's other options that we can gain an advantage on the field, maybe save some money and also ownership, and they have a good chance of doing just as good as a Will Gordon, then that's what we're going to look for. But just some stats. Will Gordon's coming in at 22% owned already, or projected to be owned, 7,600. You know, he's had, I guess you could say, decent recent form. The 61st at Safeway, I'm kind of on that. 27th at Wyndham, and looking over his all his shocking strokes for his, you know, I think his whole history. He's always been really good off the tee, but he's terrible around the greens and putting. And so, for me, that's not what I'm looking for to play this week. He has no history playing at Corales or the Puerto Rico Open. I'm not saying that's a negative or a positive. I mean, I think it's maybe a little bit negative because we have no real understanding of how he would do here. But yeah, I will be probably not putting a whole lot of Will Gordon. I'm not saying I won't maybe sprinkle him in, but I'm going to try to get away from that chalk. Now, Seb Straka, as I was showing you and through all the models, I think this is good chalk to eat. You know, at 9,300, yes, he's almost 20% owned already. But there's a reason, you know, out of this field, I think he's one of the elites. He's an amazing off the tee length, pretty accurate, but he's also a really good putter. And I think that's the combination that we're looking for. He's also a decent recent form, 14th at the Safeway, 16th at the Puerto Rico Open back in 2019. So he has past history. And also with Corales, where this is going to be played. He's a 26 in 2019. And the Puerto Rico, you know, the course, Cocoa Beach, is I think they're almost identical. And so I'm looking at them now almost better than a comp course. Like I think from greens to layout to yardage, it's a great comp course. So I'm looking at both of those as they played at both. Sam Burns, again, I think he is a good fit. Again, he has the length, he has the putting, but again, he's heavily owned already at 24% right now. He's coming up as the most widely owned player in the field. But he's also got good past history at Corales, and he just came off a 7th at the Safeway. So, what I'm thinking is some of these guys you're going to play, just heads up that you probably don't want to stick them all on the same team. And then Adam Schenk, which I don't think this is that great a chalk to eat. I will, again, like Will Gordon, probably maybe have a sprinkle, but I'm pretty much not going to be playing a whole lot of Adam Schenk. He's 20% owned. The price tag to pay for Adam Schenk, $8,500, is ridiculous. I mean, all the pricing is a little ridiculous for these guys, but of course it is the field. I mean, you have the leader in price, which is what, 10,009 for Zalatoris, who's not even a PGA member. Yes, he had a T6 at the U.S. Open. He also had a lot of cuts or missed cuts before that, but he has been playing great at the Korn Ferry. I'm not saying that he's not, someone that could be viable, but for that kind of price, I'm going to look for other options than playing Will. But Schenk, why he's priced so high, he hasn't missed a cut since the Travelers in June. So that's a lot of, that's good recent form. Now, they haven't been, I don't think, amazing finishes, but, he hasn't had a missed cut since June. And he does have some past history at Corales, as you can see, but a 33rd and a 35th, that's not blowing me away again for the price. So my probably projection on this is I will have some Seb Straka for sure. I like Sam Burns. I think it's a good fit, but Will Gordon and Adam Schenk I will probably be sticking away from. So here's some pivot options for you. So I think on the model is showing Christopher Venture. I don't think this, the other guys are already kind of talking about, but again, a good fit. He's got a great putter, and he's also got some length. He's already 17% owned or projected to be owned, and he's 9,200. So he's not cheap, but, if I had to look at between him and Schenk, which, you got about a $700 difference, I'm going with Christoph. He had a 7th at the Safeway, a 37th at the Wyndham, a 21st at the Rocket Mortgage. He has played at the Puerto Rico Open. Again, the comp course we're looking at in 2019, missed a cut, but I think under recent form, I'm going to be playing some Ventura. Patrick Rogers is another guy who I'm looking at right now. He is under 10% owned at 8,000. I like, his past history at the Puerto Rico and the Corales. They're a little dated, but at least he does have past history and has shown that on those kind of courses, he can almost T20. He had a 46th at the Safeway. An 18th at Memorial I think that's awesome, because that was there's a lot of good players that missed a cut at that event. Again, very tough conditions. The course was tough. And then to restart, he had a 14th at the Charles Schwab. So I like Patrick Rogers. Matt Jones, which I mentioned again, the models were popping him up. He's less than 7% owned, 7,900. Recent form is pretty good. A 37th at the Wyndham. He had a 14th at the Workday. A 5th at the AT&T Pro-Am. Now, that was back in January timeframe, but I just kind of pulled out his highlights. But he has a lot of past experience on this course, and of course, Cocoa Beach, as I mentioned. An 18th and a 28th at the Corales, a 5th, a 14th, and a 28th. So everything above a 30th, and he's a solid putter. Everything else could always be better, but he is a solid putter, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. So I like Matt Jones. And then, no one's really talking about CH3, Charles Hall III, which he's, one of the bigger names and has one of the better pedigrees in this tournament. And so, when you look at Charles Hall III, he had a 30th at the U.S. Open, which we just came off, and we all know how tough that was. The BMW was no slouch itself. Had a 48th, a 43rd at Northern Trust is but a 3rd at the 3M Open. And way back in 2009, he did play the Puerto Rico Open, had a 21st. So I just threw that in there. I mean, he has some experience at these kind of courses. but I like Charles out of third, and with that, the price is a little higher, but I think the pedigree and that ownership being that, I will try to get some CH3 in there. All right, who am I going to be fading? Corey Connors. Now, I like the Canadian. I actually watched his first win when he qualified on that Monday qualifier and won the Texas Open or whatever, Valero, Texas. And he had just had an outstanding day putting. But Corey Connors, and you're going to notice on my fades, and we kind of talked about, I'm looking for good putters, and Corey Connors is the furthest thing from a good putter. He is an amazing ball striker, accurate as heck, great approach, not so great on chipping, but his putting, I've only seen it really hot one time, and that's when he won. He's already over 14% owned, and at 10.6, I think he's the second highest priced in this field. I can't get to Corey Connors. So I'm going to fade Corey. Luke List also, pretty similar. All the talents from tee to green, just around the green and putting, just it all falls apart, and it always has for Luke. But he did win. What was it? On the Corn Ferry, he won. I don't know if it was the Barracuda. I don't think that's correct, but he did win a tournament not too long ago here. So he has, somewhat decent form. But he's already 11% owned, and he's at 8,700. So I'm going to pass on Luke. Emiliano Grillo, everybody's kind of touting him up. But again, this you're going to see it be like Team No Putt. It just shows, it wasn't standing out that you had to have great approach here. It wasn't standing out that you had to be long off the tee, which not Emilio Grillo is. But again, tee to green, Emiliano Grillo is a great player, just a terrible putter. So if one of these guys all of a sudden just has a crazy hot day putting, they're going to be very alive. But we're going off historical data here, and off that, we can't predict that they're going to finally have one breakthrough. And lastly is Henrik Stenson. My view on Henrik, he's one of the bigger names here, and I kind of mentioned this in the previous show on this tournament, that I think he's literally just coming here because he lives in the Bahamas. So it's literally like 1,000 kilometers from the Dominican Republic from where he lives. And I just saw it as he looked at his schedule and said, you know what? I'm already going to be down that way anyways. I'm going back home for a while. I'll just pop in and, if I do well, I do well. But, and Henrik just, he came back. He was one of the later players to come back from the restart. But, he's played in 4 tournaments since, and he's had 3 miscuts. And I just see no form with Henrik. But typically, if he was in, his, a performance where I think he won the Hero, not the Hero, but he did have a win early on in the 2020 season. But since then, it's not been a whole lot of anything. The ownership is not that high on him right now, but I think that's going to go up. He is a name, so people that just casually are going to want to get in this, they're going to look for names they know, and Henrik Stenson is probably one of the few they will know. So I think his ownership is going to go up. And like I said, for the price, for what he's been doing, he has no history of playing at either Corales or Cocoa Beach. So I'm out on Henrik. All right, my sleepers. Who do I like? So Aaron Baddeley, this is a first. I would never sit and tout Aaron Baddeley. Now, if it was for Showdown, I would tell you to pick him up for sure on a Thursday or a Friday, but that'd be about it. But Aaron Baddeley, I looked at his past history here, and he does well here, and he can get really hot. His off the tee has always been a little suspicious, but he is a strong putter, and he's good around the greens. And you can look at he had a 7th last year at the Corales, and then again the direct comp courses. He had a 2nd at the Puerto Rico Open and an 8th at the Puerto Rico Open. And these you can all look at because it's the same fields, right? I mean, this isn't doing apples to oranges. This is apples to apples. That these are the typical fields at these, past alternate events. And so if you put Aaron Baddeley against some of these guys that, we'll call it the B squad, he overachieves. And so for that price, so right now he's, less than, he's 3% owned, projected to be owned in 6,600. I think he's someone to look at. And I'm not even going to tell you to pick him just because he could open up, for the top, because again, there's a few guys up there, as I mentioned, but I just think he's live. I think he could really do something this upcoming weekend. Also, Brandon Grace. So, he's under 3% owned. He is 9,000. So at least, Brandon, if you don't know much about Brandon Grace, he is, he's got a pedigree. He's won big tournaments. He shows up in big tournaments. The guy at one time, like 2015 was a stud. I think if it wasn't for Jordan Spieth, that year, he would have won even more tournaments, big tournaments, and he'd be really well known. And so what you probably don't know is that just recently, so the first week of August was the Barracuda, and he was leading that after 2 days, but then had a withdrawal because he actually tested positive for COVID, which I don't know if it was what do you call it, a false positive or what, if he actually had it or not, because he said he felt totally fine. But long story short, so good recent form. He also ended up 29th at the Safeway. Now, if you look at the beginning from the RBC and the Charles Schwab, and then that in between, he did have 5 missed cuts. And so, I'm not saying it's been, just amazing for the last 6, or 3 to 4 months. But I like him. I mean, again, looking through this field, he's one of the more, established players. His putter now, I did say I was going with only good putters, and his putter has been a little suspect. But, again, I'm going on what I know Brandon Grace can do. And it wouldn't shock me to see him holding the trophy. No more than it probably shocked to see Graham McDowell holding it last year, or Garnett holding it the year before. I mean, he is almost like the prototypical Graham McDowell or Bryce Garnett. So I like Brandon Grace, especially for that ownership. And then Chase Seifert, no one's talking about him. And funny enough, he was kind of the darling, I don't know, I'd say a couple months ago when he had that 4th at the workday. Everybody was on him. And then, he recently had 3 missed cuts. But I think for the price, if you're, again, and for the ownership projection, I think Chase is a solid player. He has no history at Corales or Cocoa Beach. But if you look at over his last 24 tournaments, that's his total PGA career at this point, 24 tournaments. He's positive in all shot gain areas, except for around the green. And so I don't think the whole chipping is going to be a huge factor. I see a lot of, it's easy to hit fairways, should be easy to hit greens. So he's good everywhere else, putting off the tee. He's a solid player. So I will be putting in some Chase Seifert. So there's just some ideas, when you get at least from Baddeley and Seifert, Brandon is a little higher cost, but just to be able to differentiate your lineup and even allow you to, if you want some higher guys, to Chase and Aaron will allow you to do that. And for my winner, that's right, Adam Long. And he is already coming in at 15%, but he was popping all over those different models that I was running, looking at every different aspect of this. He is expensive. But, if you look at what this guy's been doing, and, I think he's, what do you kind of say, like, kind of flies under the radar. So, I mean, he just had a 13th at the U.S. Open. You can see, that's why I put up that information of all his shot gain totals, so you could get a really good understanding of what this guy's been doing. He ended up, just it's pretty amazing to do what he did at that course. Also, he played the BMW, which was a crazy tough task. And you can see he struggled a little bit there, but still had a 56. That's, out of 70 guys. But still, the Northern Trust. And again, we're looking at tournaments against the best of the best. And so if you put Adam Long in this field, if he doesn't T10, I'm going to be just blown away. I mean, you never know what they're bringing to the course that day. But I like that, the second place finish at the 3M Open. And, and again, this is all recent within, that was late July, and then a 51st at the PGA. So I'm on Adam Long. I'm going to have a lot of them. Like I said, he's not super chalky at this point. I don't know what's going to end up. But, last I polled, he was at 15%. So that's it. I hope this gave you some ideas. If you get any value or like what you're seeing, please give me the thumbs up. I'm trying to get the subscriber base up. I'm going to keep working on the content and, just making it better and better and just, cutting through the fluff and getting you guys right to the meat of who I think you need to pick. Have a great tournament and a happy Corales Punta Resort Club Championship. All right, take care.